My name is Elizabeth, 40 years old. I work as the manager at a high-end nightclub in New York called aita. K is managed by my mother, who owns the place. I am merely acting as a stand-in owner. Perhaps I haven't married until this age because I've seen all sorts of men at the shop. Then, at a high school reunion, I re-encountered my first love, Michael. It turned out we both had feelings for each other. Fueled by that discovery, we quickly moved from dating to getting married. Michael was divorced and living with his 15-year-old daughter, Sarah. I thought that with the power of love, even having a child wouldn't be a problem. However, Michael and I decided to divorce after just 1 year. What was our marriage life all about? I came to understand how money can disrupt life. A year into our marriage, I had to close down aita, the club I worked at. Michael and Sarah, who had been relying on my earnings, suddenly turned their backs on me. Unaware that I actually had an annual income of $3 million, Michael said. A wife who can neither earn nor take care of the child is unnecessary. And Sarah, his daughter, added, "Next time, I want a mom I can brag about." Since they didn't know my true self, it couldn't be helped. Is that so? Okay. Then, this is goodbye, I replied calmly. Michael demanded a divorce under unbelievable conditions. My true nature was revealed 2 months later in a magazine article. Then, Michael and Sarah started bombarding me with calls. I want to explain the shallow yet deep history of our 1 year together. Today is the high school reunion. The purpose is to meet my first love, Michael. I wonder how he has changed, if I'll be disappointed, or if I'll feel excited. Elizabeth, do you remember me? To my surprise, Michael spoke to me. Moreover, he gave me a boyish smile just like back then. His refreshing demeanor hasn't changed at all. Suddenly, I felt nervous. Of course, I remember you. After all, Michael, you were my first love. What? Really? Why didn't you tell me back then? We might have dated then. What? My face suddenly felt hot. Nostalgia and embarrassment overwhelmed me. I liked you too, Elizabeth. But with someone as beautiful as Elizabeth, I thought you were already married. No, I haven't done that. What? Really? Maybe there's a chance for me then? I'm single too. Really? I thought for sure you were married. Is this heading in a good direction? But, don't you think it's divine guidance that we met here today? I was actually planning to skip the reunion at first. But, I suddenly became able to come, and this must be what they call fate. I never anticipated such a development. I just wanted to see how Michael had changed and to catch up on his current situation. That day, Michael and I exchanged contact information and started communicating through emails and calls. And I quickly deepened our relationship as if making up for lost time. I am seriously dating Elizabeth. That's why I don't want to keep any secrets. There's something I haven't been able to tell you, Elizabeth. I thought I'd share it today. Unable to guess what he might say, I feared the worst. Like he might start with, "Actually, I have a wife and kids. And I have a 15-year-old daughter." I wasn't surprised. Being 40, it seemed natural. I'm raising her by myself, a single father. It's rare for the father to have custody. Did something serious happen with your ex-wife? She fell in love with someone else and left on her own. I thought he hadn't changed, but it turns out he's been through a lot. Reminding me how quickly time flies. That's why I hesitated to propose to you. My heart skipped a beat. A proposal. Wait a minute. I also have something I want to say. You haven't asked about my job, Michael, but do you know what I do? Since we couldn't meet at night, I thought maybe you were a nurse or a hotel worker with night shifts. This is hard to say. I work at a nightclub. What? You work at a nightclub? You were always quiet and seemed to dislike being in front of people during our school days, so that's surprising. Do you have a prejudice against that? No, not at all. That means you must be earning quite a lot, right? Maybe even more than me? Well, that might be possible. After all, it's a high-end nightclub in New York. And I work as the manager. Wow, you're the manager? That's impressive. I don't earn enough to go to such places, so it's a world unknown to me. What if, just what if you and I were to get married, I'm not planning to quit my job. You don't need to quit. Work as much as you want. That's a problem we can easily solve if we get married. What I'm most worried about is whether you'd marry me even though I have a child from a previous relationship. I'm grateful that someone would like to marry me. But I'm just worrying if your daughter dislikes having me. Concerned about my worries, Michael arranged for me to meet his daughter, Sarah. Though I heard she was 15, Sarah seemed mature enough to be mistaken for a university student. Nice to meet you, I'm Sarah. Wow. I'm so happy to meet Ms. Elizabeth. You're beautiful and fashionable, wearing designer items, so elegant. I can brag about having someone like you as my mom. At 15, she could still offer flattery. Without the opposition I feared, her attitude was good, and it seemed we could get along well. Having overcome the hurdle of Sarah, Michael felt reassured and proposed to me. This marked the beginning of my first marriage. Wow, living in such a big and shiny house is like a dream. Excited like a child, Sarah frolicked around in the new home I had contributed the down payment for and contracted in my name. Michael worked at the post office and hadn't been able to afford a home of his own yet. Are you sure about this? I feel guilty that Elizabeth is going to make the monthly mortgage payments as well. It's also the house I'll be living in. So I was quite particular about the interior design and ordered custom work. I'm so happy Elizabeth is becoming my mom. She's worlds apart from my previous mom. Dad really married a wonderful person. But the biggest mystery is why someone as amazing as Elizabeth would marry my dad, who isn't very successful. That's the only thing I can't figure out. When a woman reaches 40, she might give up on marriage. But if you consider life to be 80 years long, the thought of spending another 40 years alone feels lonely. That's when I reconnected with Michael by chance, and I thought, maybe it's nice to fall in love again. And marriage just happened to be on the continuation of that. Wonderful. I always feel Elizabeth is intelligent and smart whenever she speaks. Seeing Elizabeth heading to work dressed sharply in a gorgeous suit every day is really impressive. And suits her well. I never dreamed that the manager of a high-end club would become my mother. At first, when Dad told me about it, I wondered if she might be a scary person. I thought I'd never have anything to do with the nightlife industry, and wondered if such a person would really like my dad. After all, Dad doesn't indulge in that kind of nightlife and probably has never been, right? No, just a humble post office worker here. And my superiors never took me out like that. At most, we went to a casual bar, I guess. That was a long time ago. But you know, I heard that employees at high-end clubs in New York study every morning, reading newspapers and books. Come to think of it, Elizabeth also spends time thoroughly reading 5 different newspapers. It requires a different kind of intelligence, aside from just studying. Compared to that, I feel so dumb. I have exams coming up soon, but I'm struggling with my future path. We've already discussed this. Michael intervened. I remembered they mentioned having a 3-way meeting with Sarah's middle school teacher recently. With our financial situation, we can't afford private schools. No matter how many times I tell you. But the teacher said, didn't he? If it's a public school, it'll be the lowest ranked high school, barely getting in, if at all. And that's a delinquent school. I don't want to go to a school with such bad safety. That's why you have to study. I've been telling you over and over. But Dad, you're just a high school graduate. Yes, that's why I don't want you to end up like me. I want you to go to university if possible. No way, I hate studying. But I still want to graduate from high school. And for that, I don't want to go to a delinquent school. What if I end up having to drop out quickly? It's not funny at all to be a high school dropout, seriously. Sarah, is there a particular high school you're aiming for? As expected of Elizabeth, you always ask the right questions. I want to get a qualification. So I'm thinking of going to a commercial school to get my bookkeeping certification. There it is again. That's great, Sarah. You're seriously considering your future. I've heard that getting a first-level bookkeeping certification is tough, so it's good. I'll pay for Sarah's school fees. Yay! That's why I love you, Elizabeth. Thank you. Sarah hugged me. It seems that adolescent girls have their own unique concerns that only a mother can understand. Elizabeth is too soft on Sarah, Michael said, smiling. Having moved into our new home, we've started to understand each other's daily rhythms. Michael then made this suggestion. From now on, I think I should take the lead in doing the household chores. Elizabeth comes home in the morning from her night job. She needs to sleep until the afternoon or she won't be able to keep up. If she has to wake up and start doing laundry and cleaning, she won't make it to the shop on time. Until now, she's been doing it, even preparing dinner. But that must be tough, right? So, I think I, who can get off work at a regular time, should be the one to do the household chores. The idea that women should do the household chores is outdated, I think. After all, Elizabeth earns more than I do. So it's only natural for me to take on the role of a house husband. What do you think? I was genuinely pleased. Marrying Michael was the right decision. Even in high school, he was someone who could anticipate needs and make things run smoothly. He wasn't a standout student, but he was the kind of person who worked hard behind the scenes. A real unsung hero. Dad, you're the best. You really noticed the burden on Elizabeth. Cheeky thing, Sarah. Thank you. It's not that doing household chores is a burden, but being perfect at it was frankly impossible. If Michael can take care of it, that would be a big help. Of course, I'll help out with what I can do too. Elizabeth's cooking is delicious, but so is Dad's. He used to be really bad at cooking, to the point where he could ruin even when warming pizza in a microwave, which is said to be foolproof. But he has improved a lot. That's why I say you're cheeky. Being a family is wonderful, and marrying Michael made me truly realize this. Although I joined the Michael family midway, I'm having fun redoing what Michael and I missed in high school. And with Sarah, it's like having a best friend. We talk a lot every day. And I give her advice on her concerns. This Sunday, I've promised to go shopping for clothes with Sarah. What's Sarah up to? Sarah has been changing into clothes she bought, going down to the full-length mirror in the bathroom to check her look, and repeating this. She's doing a fashion show with the clothes we bought her. Did you buy her more clothes? You just bought her a bag and shoes the other day, right? Now it's clothes. She's a girl, of course, she wants to dress up. I enjoy seeing Sarah become cuter. But those things are expensive, right? I don't know much about brand items, but try not to spoil her too much. It's bad if she loses sense of money's value. You've also promised to take her on a trip abroad if she succeeds in her high school entrance exams. Right? What's wrong with that? She said she's never been abroad before. Sarah wants to go to Hawaii. You're coming too, right, Michael? Well, if everyone's going, I'll go. It'll be a reward for you too. After all, you're doing all the housework every day. Thanks to you, I can work at the nightclub with peace of mind. Perhaps this was the peak of happiness and fulfillment for us. My unique job and slightly higher income eventually led to turmoil in his family. Ugh. This is the worst. Dad. You didn't buy toothpaste. This is such a hassle, especially in the busiest morning. I woke up to the sound of Sarah and Michael arguing. My bad, just use water for now. You've been forgetting to buy things a lot lately. Laundry is piling up, and there's dust in the corners of the hallway. And the meals you make are either instant or pre-packaged side dishes. I understood why Sarah was upset. Lately, Michael has been neglecting his household duties too much. I've been trying to cover for him as much as possible, but there are things I just can't manage. I left the bedroom and went to the living room where they were arguing. Hey, tell him too, Elizabeth. Michael is tired too, right? Housework is much harder than one might think. Then you should just quit your job and become a full-time house husband. It's because you do everything halfway that it's bad. I've already quit the post office. What? When did that happen? Elizabeth, did you know about this? I shook my head. This was the first I'd heard of it. After all, there's no need for both of us to work, right? The money Elizabeth brings in is dozens of times what I made. It's discouraging to even try to work. Instead, I'll take care of the home. That's how a couple supports each other. Then all the more reason not to skimp on housework. After shouting that, Sarah left the house to go to school. If you quit your job, you could have at least mentioned it. Huh? Why do I have to report everything to you? Dressing up pretty, flattering men, serving them drinks, making them pay a lot of money. It's an easy job, right? And it earns dozens of times more than my salary. It becomes ridiculous, doesn't it? Saying it's an easy job is a bit harsh. The nightlife business is harder than most people think. Sending emails to customers diligently, managing companionship and after-hours appointments. You have to know customers' preferences, like their birthdays, and cater to those needs. And sometimes being a companion at golf. It's not just the time spent at the club, but often the private time is even more demanding. So, let me ask you, if I were a nightclub owner, would you have married me? Yes, absolutely no problem. I don't have any prejudice against the nightlife industry. Well, that's because it's like being in the same line of work. But Elizabeth, you might not realize it, but your sense of money is distorted. But isn't it thanks to that we can live this way now? I'm working for my salary, and I don't think it's excessive. See, that kind of thinking is exactly the problem. Anyway, I've decided to use the time I used to spend on work more effectively. Doing so much shouldn't be too much to ask. After all, I've raised Sarah on my own till here. Michael boasted about using his time effectively, which turned out to be for gambling. Daily visits to a casino, and engaging in boat racing, bicycle racing, and horse racing. All the money for these activities came from me. And then another person started tapping into my funds. Wow, such a luxurious house. Lucky for Michael and Sarah that your remarried spouse is wealthy. That was the sarcastic comment of Michael's ex-wife, Ruby, who showed up unannounced. You're the manager of IK in New York, right? The famous of IK, daughter of the renowned owner-manager. Considering it's a high-class club not just any office worker can afford to go to. It seems you're doing quite well financially. You know, I lent Michael about $50,000. Michael suddenly said he really wanted a car, so we went ahead and bought one for $50,000. We were paying it off with monthly installments of $300. A week after buying it, he crashed the car, and it was totaled. I'm still paying off the loan for a car that's gone. You're Michael's wife now. So could you pay me the $50,000 instead? And also, the money spent on Sarah. Sarah wanted to take piano and swimming lessons because all her friends were. And those lessons were expensive. I ended up begging my mother to pay the monthly fees. I'd like you to reimburse those expenses too. After all, Sarah didn't stick with any of those activities. As Sarah's current mother, you have an obligation to pay, I think. Saying such outrageous things. I have no obligation to pay for past expenses, nor do I intend to. I heard that Ruby ran off with another man, leading to their divorce. It's audacious, or perhaps just oblivious, to come asking for money when she's the one at fault. Well, even if you don't have an obligation to pay, could you lend me some money? So that's what this is about. I understood. When someone close by has money, suddenly the number of relatives increases. You could share a little bit of your prosperity with me, right? After all, Sarah is being raised as your child now. When Sarah gets married, you'll be the one presenting the bouquet as the bride's mother, right? Please, just go home normally. I don't owe you a penny. It's not like I earn money easily. I work for it and get paid for my efforts. If you don't have money, you should work. I made sure to maintain a firm attitude. I haven't been in the nightlife business for nothing. Handling clients well is essential. Elizabeth, the taxi's here. Are you okay? Sarah and I will follow soon. As I was getting ready in a hurry, Michael called out to me. Last night, my mother passed away. The legendary owner of the high-end New York Club K has passed away, causing a stir among those involved. My mother's will stated no need for a grand funeral. She wanted only the family to quietly send her off, but people wouldn't leave it at that. My mother's death forced me to make a significant decision. Finally freed from that gloomy place. There's a lot to do besides the funeral when someone dies, huh? Thank you, Sarah and Mark, for your hard work. We somehow managed to get through the memorial service. Now, I have something important to discuss with you too. What's up? You're being so formal. I've decided to close down the New York nightclub where I work as a manager. Huh? Why? Was it losing money? I don't owe you a single penny. I don't earn money easily either. I work for what I earn. If you're out of money, please work for it. I made sure to maintain a firm stance. My years in the nightlife industry weren't for nothing. Handling clients well is part of the job. Elizabeth, the taxi is here. Are you okay? Sarah and I will follow later. As I hurried to get ready, Michael called out to me. Last night, my mother passed away. The legendary owner of New York's high-end Club K was no more, causing a stir among those involved. My mother's will stated no need for a lavish funeral. Just a quiet farewell with family, though not everyone would let us be. Her passing forced me to make significant decisions. Finally free from that gloomy place. There's so much to do besides the funeral when someone dies, huh? Thank you, Sarah and Michael, for your help. We somehow managed to get through the 49th day memorial service. Now, I have something important to discuss with both of you. What's all the formality for? I've decided to close the nightclub in New York, where I work as the owner. Huh? Why? Was it running at a loss? That shop was a labor of love for my mother, filled with many memories. But she didn't wish for the shop to continue after her death. So her will states it should be closed. So, you're selling it? To someone else? It might be sold as is, but it won't become part of my assets. My mother was involved in volunteer work and arranged for all her assets to be donated. Then, what will you do going forward? You're going to continue in the nightlife business at another nightclub, right? I'll refer the employees currently working at AK to other nightclubs. But I think I'm done with the nightlife business. Then, who will support the household? We bought this house counting on Elizabeth's income. So you have to take responsibility. What about the living expenses? And the tuition for Sarah's private high school? Do something, Elizabeth. I'll work a regular job. You, who climbed up to the owner's position in the nightlife business, will find daytime jobs too low paying to bear. Saying I'll work normally is easier said than done. For example, even celebrities who commit crimes manage to return to the entertainment industry, right? It's the same thing. Once you've had a taste of big money and a luxurious life, you can't go back to living you normally thought. That's the reality. Seriously, what are you even saying now? Are you planning to make me dress poorly? This is like fraud. I was only nice because of the money, living a good life. I can't go back to how things were before. Without Elizabeth's money, she's just an ordinary woman. Such a clear turnaround. Even if it was just for a year, having a luxurious life and dreaming big was enough. Honestly, I'm also at a loss about how to move forward. Exactly. I feel cheated just like Sarah said. I even quit my job, and now you're asking how you're going to take responsibility? Sarah won't be able to go to a private high school now. What a woman. This is what real marriage fraud looks like. I don't deserve to be vilified like this. I wasn't playing around. Do they even realize how hard I worked to protect AK, the club my mother, owner, built? But for me, a new chapter in life was already starting. I had kept it a secret from Michael and Sarah, but a big opportunity was waiting for me. We can't continue as a couple feeling this way. Let's get a divorce. Wait a minute, we haven't even been married for a year. Let's try to meet each other halfway, improve what can be improved, and find a way to make it work as a couple. What kind of marriage is this? You left all the household chores to me. You don't even take care of Sarah, do you? I've been the one making Sarah's lunch most of the time, right? Because you can't wake up in the morning. If you thought I enjoyed being a house husband, you're sorely mistaken. The change in Michael was more disappointing than frightening. It became clear. My mother always said I had no eye for men. That's why you're still single at 40. Indeed, all my previous boyfriends were wrong choices. But I thought Michael was different. Perhaps, I took Michael's help for granted. I might have thought it was natural for him to do the housework. But isn't it the same for both sides? Michael, and even Sarah. You both took it for granted that I would provide financially, right? Isn't that a bit unfair? Let's live within our means. I don't want to hear your excuses. Since you've committed fraud, I demand a proper settlement for emotional distress and 3 years of Sarah's high school tuition as conditions for the divorce. His demands were absurd. I considered getting a lawyer but planned to leave the US soon. It might be easier to accept the divorce quickly rather than dragging it out in court. Severing ties with Michael and Sarah over money might be for the best in the long run. I pretended to concede fully, agreeing to his terms. 2 months have passed. My circumstances have drastically changed in just 2 months. Now, I am in Dubai. Somehow, Michael found out where I was and contacted me. Though I'm not sure how he found out or who told him. Elizabeth. Do you have any plans to return to the US? His overly cheerful voice makes me feel nauseous. I had no idea your father was a big shot at Bird Airlines. And that you've taken over as the CEO. Recently, after my father retired, I took over his company, as he had asked me during my mother's funeral. My becoming the female president of Bird Airlines has become a topic of conversation. And I've been interviewed about it. That's what was recently published in a magazine. Probably, Michael and Sarah saw that magazine and found out. I googled it, and the average annual salary for an airline CEO is about $3 million.
Ah.
Elizabeth, you should have told me that you were closing the club to become the CEO of an airline company. Then, either Sarah nor I would have mentioned divorce. Elizabeth, you've always been secretive, haven't you? I thought you were such a mysterious person even when we were in high school. You never talk much about yourself and never show your true face. But I guess that's what attracted me to you. As he rambles on, I can't help but tune out. He pushes me away when I have no money, but comes crawling back when I do. It's so transparent. Are you okay? Instead of calling, shouldn't you be working? You were using my money for all your purchases, paying later, right? If you don't work, you won't have money for casino, will you? You'll run out of money for gambling too, right? Or is it that the money I paid you as alimony is already gone? Did you blow the $30,000 on gambling in an instant? Saying that, I abruptly hung up the phone. From that day, Michael and Sarah started calling me almost daily. The calls were essentially begging for money. They wouldn't say it directly but implied that they wanted financial support. Elizabeth, you're in Dubai, right? Can I visit you sometime? I passed my exams. You promised to take me to Hawaii as a reward, remember? I don't mind changing the destination to Dubai. Michael and Sarah were desperate. Do they seriously think I would happily return to the family after being called a scam artist? After all the accusations of fraud, now they're too conveniently reaching out. I'm no longer Sarah's mother, just a stranger. It was Sarah who wanted it that way first. At least, make sure you attend high school seriously and graduate. In the club, women with higher education are popular, you know. You said you couldn't be proud of a woman in the nightlife business, right? Then, why don't you have Michael remarry someone you can be proud of? I said that and hung up the phone. I set Michael and Sarah's numbers to be blocked. The reason I hadn't done it so far was because I still felt some affection for them. But now, I'm cutting ties with Michael and Sarah. I've moved on to a different stage from you. Ultimately, I decided to move to Dubai. The job is easier to manage there. Living a comfortable life in a luxurious mansion owned by my father. And, believe it or not, I'm even dating a handsome local man who is 15 years younger than me. Being popular here makes me think that the reason I wasn't popular in the US was just because of my location. Even at 40, I'm living a life where I'm much sought after. Meanwhile, Michael is being chased by debt collectors for the debts he accumulated hoping to use my money. Afraid of getting caught, he's been fleeing from place to place, both domestically and internationally. Sarah ended up dropping out of the high school she had so much trouble getting into. The tuition I had provided for Sarah's high school was used by Michael to pay off his debts. Now 16, Sarah has gone to live with Ruby. At Ruby's place, they can't even afford a normal life, let alone a luxurious one. Money truly can disrupt lives.